And welcome back to Humans of Buildout. I'm Alan Giles.
And I'm Audrey Schiffauer.
That's right. And we are back with yet another Human of Buildout. Emphasis on human. We've had a lot of requests about talking to different creatures in Buildout. Dogs is a big one.
Pets of Buildout will be an eventual spinoff.
Yeah, Pets of Buildout I could see being a big spinoff of just us having these long form interviews with dogs, canaries.
Shane's
An otter.
Yeah.
otter. If we find a real otter, we'll be good. We have to start with
Yeah.
Shane, and his house alone would take about a year to do.
Yeah. Shout out to Shane, probably the most pets of all the Build Out employees, I'm assuming. For those unfamiliar, my name's Alan. I'm on the product support team. I've been a part of Build Out for 3.5 years. And Audrey, what do you do?
I'm a business analyst on the projects team. I have been a part of Buildout on and off for 5 years. I'm gonna really tout my geniusness that I left Buildout to bartend 6 months before a global pandemic, but I didn't know. And now I'm back.
Awesome. And we are so lucky and happy to have a really awesome guest with us this time around. Please welcome Merick Andrade.
Hello. So excited to be here. Thank you so much. Yes. Thrilled to be here.
I can hear the audience applauding now.
Yeah. And I just want to give a shout out to Merick. I think it's really helpful for me as someone who's meeting you over Zoom for the first time that you're wearing a hat that shows me exactly the hemisphere, I'm assuming, where you're based. Is that right?
Oh yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right there.
Right, yeah.
Approximately like right up in there.
Oh,
that area.
Right. Solid. Yeah. The Western Hemisphere is just beautiful.
I mean, it's the best hemisphere, I think.
Oh, that's those are fighting words depending on what part of the world you're on.
They won't see this. It's all good.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Merick. First off, actually, well, I have to interrupt this question by saying I think you're drinking the exact same sparkling water that I'm drinking.
Trader Joe's?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, you can see the can right over there. Wow.
TJ's, man. I'm just hooked on like everything. You go in there and there's only like 8 aisles, but you still end up spending like $300 on snacks and drinks. It's just the best.
It's the best.
I'm a new convert to TJ's and it's overwhelming how much good stuff there is there. I know. I didn't get it before. I really didn't, because I'm a brand gal. I need brands. And so I do need to supplement it with like Mariano's or something, but it is incredible.
I get you. Yeah, it's a little weird going into a store that's like all, store brand, but I'm a convert, man. I love it. All about it.
It's so good.
I think there's something that is so simple about eliminating choice. Like if you go to Mariano's, it's like, okay, I got to get ketchup. There are like 7 different kinds of ketchup. What's the best one? I like that how when you go to Trader Joe's, it's just ketchup. And I'm like, exactly. Don't give me any choices. Just tell me this is the one that you have. If you don't want this, then you're not getting ketchup.
Love it. Exactly.
Anyways, Merick, we'd love to know. Everyone's wondering, what do you do here at Buildout?
Yeah, so I initially started with Apto. I did BDR work for them, cold calling brokers, getting hung up on constantly. Finally graduated from that into the account executive position. And then from there, I actually took on the customer operations manager role. So currently I deal with all the enterprise and strategic accounts with Apto, making sure they're happy, developing training materials for them so we don't have to be doing one-to-one trainings constantly. But most of the time I'm just working kind of in the full life cycle of those enterprise accounts. So everything from like growth opportunities to technical support, all the way up to like new business for them as well. So just kind of all over the place, but with the enterprise strategic accounts for Apto.
Nice. Merick, do you feel like getting hung up on a lot? Like build character kind of gave you thicker skin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the BDR role is tough. It's a numbers game, right? At the end of the day, it's, you got to make the calls to get the demos. But yeah, at a certain point, you kind of get used to it. You just get into that rhythm of clicking next and clicking next. Occasionally it would hurt because they were kind of mean about it. It's like, if you're a telemarketer, which now I'm way, way more friendly to any telemarketers that I happen to pick up on. So for that, yeah, I think it built a little bit of character and made me a nicer human overall.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I feel like being a part of like a customer service or any kind of like customer interaction role, you start to have some more empathy for the people who do something similar, like whenever I've had to write into any kind of support desk for any website or something, I'm always like obscenely kind to everyone I talk to because I'm like, you're a real person.
It'll get you farther. It gets you places being just like a normal, friendly, respectful human. I'm a firm believer in that.
Me too. I got really lucky because growing up, my dad was always so kind to the people that he talked to on the phone, and he handled like all the bills in the house and stuff like that. So he was the one like calling Verizon or calling whatever if the bills seemed too high, and he was always like, "Hey, so who am I talking to?" Leslie. "Hey, Leslie, we have a problem." And like he just was so nice, and I got to hear that my whole life. And like I feel like now sometimes people that I talk to when I'm the customer are like, "Oh my God, you're being so nice." And I'm like, I'm just being like a normal person. Like, I feel bad that the bar seems so low sometimes of like
Exactly.
being nice to people. I'm like, oh my God, what does everybody else do?
I know. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You catch more bees with honey than vinegar.
absolutely. That's what my dad said. So.
Yeah. And then on the subject of cold calling, I have I get a lot of cold calls from Spectrum. I use them for my internet, and they really want me to use TV. They really do. And I somewhere along the line, someone told me that like the rule is 3 no's. Usually, like they can't, like they're not supposed to like leave you alone until they get 3 no's. And so the the new strategy that I have whenever I receive a cold call from Spectrum is, they'll say like, "Hey, this is so from Spectrum. We're so glad that you've been using internet, and we just want to know if you're aware, or like, and we're curious, like, what are you using for TV services right now?" My go-to is to just go, "No, no, no, but thank you so much, and you deserve a raise. Have a great night." And then I hang up.
Brilliant.
Can record.
Brilliant.
Yes, and I had to I worked at Fashion Bug. I don't know if you guys had Fashion Bug where you were growing up, but and that will lead into my next question for Merick. But we had Fashion Bug. It was a women's clothing store, and we had to offer everyone a credit card, and I was supposed to get 3 no's before I turned it down. So I was 16 offering these women who like probably didn't need another credit card, and I flaked. I would get 1 no, and I would go, "Oh, okay, that's fine." So, Merick, I commend you for being in sales in any way at all, because it was always really difficult for me.
It can be tricky, absolutely, but
Yeah.
it's where I've been, so I'm happy with it.
Well, speaking of where you've been, and Fashion Bug, where are you from, and where are you currently based now working for Buildout?
Yeah, so I am born and raised in Littleton, Colorado, and I am currently based in Littleton, Colorado.
Nice.
I love it here. Most of my family is all within like a 50-mile radius of Denver. And so just never really wanted to move. I have a very close relationship with my parents. I live like 10 minutes from my childhood home where I grew up. My parents are still there, so I don't anticipate leaving Colorado. I will probably venture out of Littleton when it's time to buy a home, but the Colorado housing market right now is insane, like it is in most other places. But they're looking at like $500,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. So buying a house is kind of a lengthy goal at this point. So I'm sticking put in Littleton right now, just right outside the foothills, in my rented apartment.
That's awesome. And who do you live with in that rented apartment?
Yeah, so I'm with my longtime girlfriend, Alex. We actually met back in my retail days, so I feel you there. I worked for Nordstrom, and I worked in like every facet of Nordstrom that you could imagine, from like the rack off-price division up to the full line, doing loss prevention for a hot minute, so chasing after shoplifters. And then I did management for the women's shoes floor. And so I also had to try and sell credit cards constantly. And that was definitely part of the key metrics that were measured. And to make you feel better, I was trash at it as well. I just feel for those people. I don't want another credit card. I don't want the spiel. I know you have to, but yeah, so I feel you there. But the retail was really my background before coming to Buildout and Apto.
Nice. Well, Merick, I don't know if you know this, but you're not the only Nordstrom alum that works at Buildout. Blake is also a Nordstrom alum. He used to sell
yes.
suits. It's my favorite thing about him. No,
shout out
to Blake.
We'll have to commiserate over Nordy Club problems and
oh
things
God.
in the same manner.
A lot of stories, I'm sure, but yeah, I feel like retail really braces you for like almost any other job for the rest of your life, except maybe like a surgeon. Like it's just it can be so brutal, and you work weird hours, and like my dad's retirement job is Lowe's, and I was like, oh, you're gonna have to clopen, and he was like, I don't know what clopening is. And those of you who don't know, clopening is when you close down the store one night and then you have to open it the very next morning, so you're clopening. And he called me the other day and he was like, I just had my first clopening shift. So
brutal.
It's brutal.
Yeah, it was such a strange transition from that retail world into the Apto world. Apto was a pretty small startup when I first joined, and my first manager was Jess Nalen, who's now the RevOps manager. And I remember just like telling her everything that I was doing, like, hey, I got to run to the bathroom. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Or, hey, I got to run to my car real quick. And eventually she was like, I don't care what you're doing. You don't have to tell me what you're doing. And I remember like sweating, like, driving into Denver. My commute, it's in traffic, is about an hour from Littleton up into Denver, where the Apto office was. And I was like going to be like 10 minutes late. And I remember just like sweating it in the car on there, like, oh, I'm going to be late. Like they're going to be all on me, and nobody cared. It was such a strange transition. So I'm sure Jess got plenty tired of me telling her my every single move, like I was used to back in the retail world.
It's a hard habit to break, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But it is nice when you start to realize that you're at a place where there's a new level of trust, where it's like, oh, I don't need to report every single bathroom break because that I'm not gonna like do anything that I'm not supposed to be doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like and I feel like, I don't know, that's something that makes me feel a bit happier, makes me feel a bit more like respected. Because there is something about having to report every bathroom break that just kind of makes you feel like you're still in like kindergarten or something. Like, can I get a hall pass or something?
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely it. It was just super eye-opening to come to a company that trusts me, that trusts that the work that needs to be done is going to get done in the time frame that I've given it. And although it was a hard transition, it's been super eye-opening to come to a company like that.
That's great. That reminds me of a question. So it reminds me of something I do here. Like a lot of times I'll putz around when I need a break from just staring at the computer. And that's often when I figure out a problem. I don't know if you guys have experienced that. It's kind of like the shower idea mentality, where I'm like, man, this client asked me a question and I kind of like don't even understand what they need, or like, I don't know how to fix this. And then I'm like, I just need a break. I'm going to go do the dishes. And while I'm doing the dishes, I'm like, oh, I understand it. And it's like, so my question, Merick, is like, what are the things that you do, like to putz around or to take a break, like a short break, obviously during the day, since you're working?
Oh yeah. I mean, dishes is actually like a huge one. They never stop.
No, they don't.
It drives me insane. It's the worst chore around the house. So I'll usually stop and do dishes. Another one too, if I can squeeze out like an hour, like a lunch. I actually live really close to a golf course, so I'll go and I'll do the driving range. And it's just something where it's like it's all muscle memory, right? And so you can kind of get into this habit and you get into this like routine, and it kind of frees your mind up to start working out problems. So that's one of the big ones. It gets you outside. It's like kind of exercise, if you will. But it's a good way to kind of split your mind and allow yourself to work out problems in a way that's not staring at a screen. So those are the big ones for sure.
That sounds great. I'm so happy that you live so close to something like that, that you can go do that in the middle of the day. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the perks of living in the suburbs is I'm surrounded by golf courses. So it's really easy to sneak out every once in a while and go hit a bucket of balls.
Totally.
Yeah, as someone who I've only golfed twice. The second time was actually the Buildout California party in Monterey. Shout out to the Prospect Now team. That was a good time. But I've been to the driving range only once, and my sort of takeaway was like it was pretty zen, honestly. Like the driving range I went to, I don't know if there was a rule for like no talking or if everyone was just like so in the zone, but like nobody was really talking or chatting or anything. It was just like, this row of people all with their buckets of balls and then just whacking them. And that was all you could really hear. Like the only sound you could hear was like, and just like, there was something that was like oddly like trance-like about it that kind of made me realize. And the time that I went was like right after work, and I saw definitely a lot of people just blowing off steam, just like, yeah, I'm thinking about a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna channel all of this energy and just hit it off, 100 yards away or whatever.
Oh yeah. No, it's really great. One of the big things they try and teach you with golf in general is having a routine, just because golf can be such a mental game. And when you start to like get off that game and you lose concentration, you got to have that routine to fall back on. It's just something that you've done it a million times. The muscle memory's there. You definitely can do it. And so, yeah, going to that range kind of teaches you to fall back into that routine, kind of let all that external stimuli go and just focus on like the task at hand. And so golf is unbelievably frustrating, but it can be such a good zen thing to really take your mind off of everything else that's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everybody has a hobby like that where they're like part of you hates it. Like I'm
Oh yeah.
I'm running my first half marathon in a couple weeks, which is really cool. And I will be not super close to you, Merick, but it's in the Grand Tetons, so I'll be closer than I am now in Chicago. But like, I can't say I love running. Like, I can't say I'm excited to run, but there's something that feels really good about going for a long run and being tired and just not doing anything for a long time except moving, and like it's a really satisfying feeling to be able to say you can run longer distances. But yeah, like there's also a really frustrating element to it too, but I feel like it's kind of good to have a hobby like that to kind of stretch your level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how you do it, so kudos to you, because running is like, I can't stand running. I always say that I'm only running if I'm chasing something or being chased. So I played soccer for a little while, so I like to chase a ball. I play ice hockey, so I'll skate around and chase a puck. But just like running is as its thing, I commend you, because that is about as far away from a hobby that I would take on as it gets.
It's been interesting. I think a race was one of the first things I did last summer after quarantine and was really kind of over. Like I traveled to Alaska to run a race, and I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. I can go find a really cool place in the world and find out when there's a race there and then use that as an excuse to go. So I did not think I would ever be into running, but here I am.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to travel. It really like kind of motivates you to get to that place. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to know, since we just learned, Merick, that you play ice hockey, what are the kind of teams that you've played for? Have you played on any like formal teams? And if so, I would love to hear some really fun mascots. I feel like hockey is all about getting in those cool mascot and those cool team names.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it was actually my first season. It wrapped up in March of this year. And we were the Party Worms. I don't know if either of you are Futurama people, but our mascot was Slurms McKenzie from Futurama. And we had pink and purple Hawaiian print jerseys. But we played in basically Division 3. So every league is a little bit different. Division 5 was like the very lowest league. And most of our players were fairly new, but we had a couple guys that were a little bit more experienced. So we actually started in Division 5. We won our game handedly. The score was very heavily lopsided on our side. So the league bumped us up 2 leagues to Division 3. And then we proceeded to get smoked basically the rest of the season. We won, I want to say we won like 5 of our 20 games. So not a brilliant record. But we had a really good locker room. Everybody, it was a lot of really good friends of mine. And then we picked up a couple free agents who hadn't really played before or had played, when they were little kids, and now everybody's grown. But the majority of the people in that league are old timers. And so it was very much my speed. I'm not the strongest ice skater in the world. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. We actually got to play on the same ice that the Colorado Avalanche practice on. So, getting to skate around on that ice with the big Avs logo at center ice was very cool. It was a wild experience, but it's brutal. It's brutal.
Wow, that's really cool that's where you got to play. I never would have guessed that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I wouldn't either. The facility actually that the Avalanche practice on is really crummy. You wouldn't think it because the Avalanche are like the greatest hockey team in the world right now. But yeah, the facility they practice at is really run down. The locker rooms are super gross, but the ice surface is really nice. So I guess you take what you can get.
Dang, you guys should come to Buffalo, which has a really good stadium and an absolutely terrible hockey team. So
I know, I feel bad for those Sabres fans. That's rough right now. I feel
yeah,
for you.
they're terrible. It's okay. We have the Buffalo Bills for the first time in a long time. So
Oh, okay. And
yeah, they're
you're doing
finally
well.
good for their football team. So I'll take
There
that.
we go.
Yeah.
You got something going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every city has one, hopefully at least one decent team.
Well, it sounds like maybe the Party Worms belong in Division 4. Maybe split the difference.
That's where we're going. Yeah, that's where we're
There you
headed.
go.
Hopefully, we, the problem is we had one guy who played Division 1 at Michigan State, and so he was a phenomenal player. And even when he, was at his worst, he was miles above everybody else. So he probably had something to do with us being moved up a league, because somebody watched us play and saw him skating, and we're like, okay, these guys are pulling in a ringer. Let's bump them up. But the rest of our team is not indicative of the league that we were in, unfortunately.
Well, I'm rooting for the Party Worms for sure. Out of all of the Division 3 or 4 teams that want me to root for them, the Party Worms has won my loyalty, my allegiance.
Thank you. Yeah, I can. I'll send you some stickers. I'll get you some Party Worms helmet stickers so you can slap them all over everywhere.
Would truly love that. Like, no joke. This is be 100% real. I want lots of Party Worm stickers.
Yeah, let's see. I've got my little work notebook. This is our little Slurms McKenzie.
Oh my god!
So that was our logo on the center of our jerseys. So I had those drafted up because I'm a sticker guy, so I had to have something to stick all over the place. But yeah, we'll see if I can mail you some so you can get Party Worms back over there.
Be awesome.
Well, I am curious in knowing more about Littleton. And since you were born and raised there and you live there now, was there a break at any point? Like, did you go to school always in Littleton, or did you go off to school somewhere and then come back?
Yeah. I actually went to school in Denver.
Okay.
And so yeah, I've always kind of been right around there, the Metropolitan State University of Denver, which is like dead center in the middle of Denver. But yeah, I just always kind of been around here. Again, I'm more of a suburb person, not really a big city person. And it's fairly easy to get into Denver, and with it being Denver, the craft beer scene is everywhere. So I can walk to a handful of breweries and tap rooms from my apartment. So never really felt the need to leave. So I think I'm sticking around for a little bit.
I don't blame you. Again, since you've lived there your whole life, I'm assuming you'll have a good answer for this question. I guess I'm really putting the pressure on. But like, what's a place in Littleton that, like, if someone was visiting Denver, you would be like, this place is worth leaving Denver to go eat or to go experience? Is there any place
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. It's really tricky because being the suburbs, you get a lot of chains. And so you have to be, it's really tough to like Google where to go get food, right? Because you're just going to get, Denny's and IHOPs and Red Robins. But for me, it's this little place called Behind the Scenes. It's actually a tap house. It's a self-serve place, which is incredibly dangerous, but you just boop your little thing and then you can pour as much beer as you want. But because it's the suburbs, they actually sprung up in an office park. And so it's kind of tricky to find. It's like tucked away back there, but they have the entire parking lot of this office park as their own. So they actually bring out a huge Jumbotron, big projector to play sports games. And so for me being a hockey fan, going to watch an Avs game there with just, 50 rows of craft beer is perfect. So if you're into that, I highly recommend it. They actually share a space with a distillery. So if you prefer your brown alcohol, you can get some really good craft stuff there as well. But Behind the Scenes, I can't recommend it enough.
Behind the Scenes.
Yes. I know Zach York is actually headed out to Littleton for a wedding, and he will be about 2 blocks from where I'm at. So I'm going to try and drag him over to that Behind the Scenes tap house when he's done with the wedding.
Oh my God, that's a perfect after wedding spot, or the next day, or
yeah,
anytime.
Yes, yeah. If you need a little hair of the dog that bit you after that wedding, Behind the Scenes will get you squared away.
So if Behind the Scenes is the first place that you'd recommend someone goes to in Littleton, what's the last place you'd recommend anyone even dare set foot in all of Littleton?
I'm gonna have to go with a place called Okinawa Sushi. And the worst thing is that I actually really like their sushi. And maybe people are going to look at this and be like, this guy's just being a wuss. But I was picking up an order there, and as I was walking out, like a mouse ran across my feet, and I sat in my car with the food and was like, do I even want to eat it? Like, what do I do at this point? And so I contemplated. I ended up eating it, and it was fine. But that was the last time that I'd ever gone there. And I called, and I was like, look, maybe you guys don't know. I'm just gonna, hey, you got a mouse problem. And they're like, yeah, we know. And that was about it. So I was like, okay, all right.
Well, reaction seals it for me.
yeah. If they were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Even if they knew about it, they could pretend, that would have given me some peace of mind. But they're like, oh yeah, that's Frank. That's the mouse that lives under the fish tank. Yeah, for sure. So
you know that one.
Yeah, can't recommend that spot.
Yeah,
that is fair.
Okinawa Frank.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows him, right?
Well,
like sushi here, whatever.
That reminds me of, there's a cafe that I really like called Pedestrian Coffee, and it's just like a nice place to go work from home. And they are right by the train station, and they leave their side door open sometimes to get some fresh air. And I saw a little mouse run in from outside. And I really like this cafe, and I felt like I was in there being like, it came from outside. Which, like, I guess
calm down.
But I was like, oh, it's because the door's open and we're right by the train station. And I felt like I was gonna, like, be like, don't worry, because I just really like that place. And I was like, it's only because they had it's like you have a door open right by a train station. Like, it's kind of inevitable. And we're lucky it wasn't a rat. It was just a little mouse. But I was like, no, it's not like that here.
And yeah, I'm probably overreacting. I'm sure like people who live in a big city are like very used to that kind of thing, but
it's still gross to me.
Yeah, still gave me the willies. So yeah, I'm out. No sushi from there.
I think it's more bizarre to see a mouse or a rat in a restaurant in the suburbs because there's more space and more outside. And I think it's honestly even grosser to see it in the suburbs, but it is also gross to see it anywhere.
Well, thank you for validating my weirded out.
You're overreacting, yeah.
Good.
But to be fair, the mice in the suburbs probably play a lot more golf than the mice in the city. So, they have a lot more opportunities to just sort of focus and let go of all that stuff from work. And then
he's a gentrified mouse for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That mouse has some
Well, it's so cool to know that you say your entire family, or maybe you said most of your family, is like all within a 50-mile radius of one another. That's to me, that maybe signifies that you're rather close with your family. What's your family situation like? Like who's in the mix? Is it a big family, a small one, medium?
Oh yeah. So we're Hispanic, so the family's massive. As most people could guess. But yeah, I'm very close with a lot of my at least first cousins. So I play golf with them pretty much every week. I see at least one or two cousins every week. I'm super close with my brother as well. So I play golf with him. He was actually our goalie for the Party Worms. So I see him pretty frequently. But for the most part, yeah, we see each other. We usually have a family gathering, once every few months. Can you guys hear the construction out there, or is it just in here?
I thought I heard like a motorcycle rev, but I don't hear any construction noises.
Okay, yeah. I think they're resodding my apartment complex, so it's a little buzzy in
Oh
my
my
office right now.
God.
So I apologize.
No, I think you're okay.
Yeah, not a distraction on my end.
No, it's okay.
Okay, all right, good to hear. But
Only
yeah,
on your end is
um,
distracting.
good. But yeah, I feel really fortunate that not only that I have my family so close that I get to see them on a regular basis, and they're people that I like. That I feel like is fairly rare for people to want to go see their family and want to go to these family get-togethers. So I feel very, very privileged that I get to experience that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Siblings wise, how many siblings and where do you fall in the lineup of birth order?
Yeah, so I'm the youngest, so I'm the happiest of all the children. I have an older sister who is 39, and then I have an older brother who is 37, and I am 31. So just a little bit of age gap between it, but yeah, I'm the youngest. So my parents got all their mistakes out, and they got all like the overbearing parent stuff done with the first two, and then I basically just ran free, and it was fantastic. I'm very lucky I didn't end up dead or in jail, but hey, I'm here now. So
Yeah, I'm an only child, so I base all my knowledge of like siblings on like TikToks and like stereotype stuff. And it seems to be like you said, the oldest child is kind of strict and self-disciplined, the middle one is a little crazy, and then the youngest one is just doesn't care about anything, but in
oh
like
yeah.
a fun way.
Yeah, I got very very lucky. My growing up, my parents knew all of my friend group, and so when I would disappear in the summers for like a week on end, they kind of just assumed that I was staying at one of my friends' house that they knew. So I didn't really have any problems with that. I probably should have had more supervision, if I'm being honest. Like if I had a child, I would not let them get away with what I got away with, but it's neither here nor there. So
You seem to be holding down a job, having hobbies, you have an apartment. Seems like you turned out fine.
doing okay.
Yeah.
All right, all things considered.
Even if you're a bit of a party worm, you can still, be a bit of a work worm when you have to.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I balance it out. I balance my party and work life
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
What's the family opinion or knowledge of apto slash build out? Because I think it can vary, right? Like some families, it's like, maybe they totally understand exactly what apto and build out do. And then others, they're like, 10 seconds into the explanation of it, their eyes are glazed over and they're like, whatever, you work in tech. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much split exactly between my parents with what you said. So my dad is in IT, so my dad gets it. He's been around computers forever. My mom, on the other hand, basically, yeah, you work in tech. She was very concerned when I left Nordstrom. I had worked for Nordstrom for like 10 years. So I had a very stable job. They liked me over there. They weren't going to fire me anytime soon. And when I told my mother that I was leaving, that I was putting in my notice in pursuit of other jobs, she freaked out. She freaked out and was very concerned. I landed the job at Apto, told her about it, told her it was a bit of a startup. She was still freaking out. She thought they were going to collapse, go belly up any minute, and then I was going to be homeless. Obviously, that's not the case, but yeah, my dad definitely gets it. I can talk to him about my support questions and concerns, and he's pretty understanding. But yeah, for the most part, my mom is like, yeah, you work with computers, whatever. She doesn't really understand, but she's very proud of me either way, which is what counts.
Yes. And Apto is a pretty small group of people, right? So what employee number were you? I'm curious, like when you started there.
Yeah, I want to say that when I got hired on, I was probably employee number like 30, maybe 31. Apto had gone through a couple of cycles where they had a ton of reps and then the reps dropped off. And then I got hired on that second spike of hiring new BDRs and reps. So when I joined, it was actually, it could have been, I could have been closer to like number 25-ish. It was really small scale, but it was super neat. I shared an office with like the founder and CEO, Tanner, which was incredibly intimidating, but also like such a cool change of pace to be able to like speak to the person who created the product that I'm selling. Also having that guy like sit in on my cold calls was like terrifying. But Tanner's a really good guy. I don't know if anyone else has had the chance to interact with him before that acquisition, but he's phenomenal. But yeah, it was very, very intimidating starting with such a small group. I went from being such a little cog in a huge machine to being like a mid-sized cog in a small machine. So it was really empowering, and overall it was like a huge learning experience. Again, it was drinking from the fire hose, but I loved it.
It's interesting too, because I do feel like startups are not something that our parents are super familiar with. And like, my favorite show is The Office, and I'll watch it around my mom. And I remember like a few years ago, she was like, "That's so funny that The Office looks like that. Offices don't look like that. They're not just desks sitting out with no walls like that." And I was like, "Mom, that's exactly what The Office looks like. I was like, no one has cubicles anymore. It's like you're just out there in the bullpen." But it was so funny to hear her be like, "That's not what any offices look like." And I was like, "This is what every office looks like."
Yep.
So,
Yeah, pretty much. When I started with Apto, actually, they were in the basement of like a co-working space. It was awful. It was like concrete floor, concrete walls, no windows, like no natural light.
oh my God.
And everybody hated it. It was like a consensus that it was awful. It was just like they needed to leave their current space because it was massive and they were only utilizing like a quarter of the space. So they got this spot. And to me, it was awesome. It was like I get to like hang out with all these people. There's like beer in the mini fridge. Like this is the best thing ever. And everybody was so upset because we were in basically a dungeon in the bottom of a spaces spot. But yeah, it was definitely a strange transition over into that world.
I'm sure. But yeah, like you said, coming from retail, it's like the freedom and the consistent time that you're working and the health insurance that I hope you also had at Nordstrom. But just like, and like I went to school to be a teacher, and Build Out was my first 9 to 5 job. And so some stuff that I think some people took for granted, I was like, oh my God. Like I think the being late thing was huge too. I was like, I can be 5 minutes late, like, and no one's gonna I'm not gonna like get in trouble or get written up, or yeah, there's beer here. I was like, what kind of job is this? This is crazy. But
Such a fun transition.
yeah. But you guys eventually got out of the basement office, I hope.
Yeah, and then we moved into a co-working space. However, that lease, I believe they signed the lease to that co-working space in like March of 2020. And so I never saw it until basically the stay-at-home order was lifted. So I always felt bad for that because they were like, we got this awesome new spot, we've got a balcony, we overlook Denver, but it's a pandemic and so everything's shut down.
Oh.
So I only worked in the physical Apto office for 3 months. I started in December of 2019, late December of 2019, and then by March I was working from home. So I had to go from like working retail to like being totally autonomous working from home. So kind of a weird whirlwind of a few months there.
I bet.
So in your opinion, what is like in a pros and cons manner, what is the biggest pro of working in the Apto office and what is the biggest pro of working from home?
I mean, biggest pro from working in the office for me for sure was like the ability to go and like shoulder tap somebody. If I had a question, like it was so quick. Obviously, like I'm sure I was interrupting everybody like constantly. But just getting to be able to like bounce ideas off of your colleagues right then and there was really fortunate. Biggest pro of working from home, and I hope this isn't a hot take, but it's having my own bathroom. God, it's so nice not having to use public restrooms all the time and just being like real close to a restroom. It's great. I think that's an underrated pro of working from home is your own home base. Nobody likes public restrooms.
That is such a good point, and I hadn't even thought about that. But like, for the folks, for anyone watching who had to go to the men's room at the Build Out office, there was a cast of characters that we from the other offices on our floor. We shared the bathroom with a couple of characters. One was Cigar Guy, who would come in, and he was never smoking or puffing the cigar. He just had a cigar in his mouth at all times. And this was like an old guy with like suspenders and, you know, the whole get up. And then there was also Throat Guy, who just, he must have had a condition. And so I'm sorry if this is in poor taste, but it was just from the second that he set foot into the bathroom, it was just constant clearing his throat, but just this deep guttural, really horrible sound. And he would do it like probably 10 times throughout the short time that he was in the bathroom. And then I think the last one I remember was Newspaper Guy. And he was just named that because from below the part of the stall that you can see below, you would just see a pair of shoes, a pair of pants pushed all the way down to the ankles, and then a full spreaded newspaper on the ground where he was just like reading it. But I was like, dude, like, that's not clean ground. Like, don't put your newspaper on the ground right in front of the toilet, man. You know, like,
That's a bold choice.
Take it with him?
Yeah, and then he'd pick it up and take it with him.
I thought he like left it in there because he was done with it. Oh, gross.
I feel weird about even having my phone out while I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Let alone just like leaving it on the floor and just letting it marinate.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we'd always talk about those characters, and I hadn't even put together how it really is a huge pro, the fact that throughout my workday, I don't have to see those three strange older men.
You don't have to like worry about if your favorite stall is going to be open. Like, you just know it is.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about those silly little seat covers, because it's like, guess what? I know that I can wash this seat whenever I want to.
Lots of perks.
Yeah, lots of perks. That's awesome. Well, Merick, we're sort of nearing the end of our time. We've had such a great time talking to you, getting to know you and your story. Not to put you too much on the spot, but this is a little bit of a putting you on the spot thing. What's your message? If you had to sum up in maybe like a phrase or a sentence or two, a message that you want to leave the viewers, the listeners with, what's something that you'd just like to say that maybe represents who you are and what you'd like to share with the world?
It's a good question, and I think I'm gonna hark back to just like my days in retail when things were kind of like a constant struggle. Is like everybody were all on that same boat, right? And like everybody is going through like a very similar work-life balance. And so for me, it's like, just be polite and courteous to your colleagues and to your clients, because I promise it'll make your life a whole lot easier if you're just not a dick. And that to me is like the life lesson that I want to just pass on to like everybody, is just be a friendly human, and things will be a whole lot easier for you.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. Mic drop.
We're done.
Awesome.
Well, the last little section of this is something that we come up with for fun that Alan and I have decided to do, and it's a quick lightning round, this or that. So I'm sure you know how it works, Merick, but we'll give you two things, and then just first one that comes to your mind, whatever answer you prefer, you let us know what it is. And it's really the most valuable way for us to get to know you, I think, out of everything.
Oh God, okay.
Your family, your hobbies, your life. It really all comes down to this. So
perfect. I'm ready.
Okay.
Fire away.
Okay, Alan, kick it off.
Brunch or buffet?
Brunch.
Met Gala or Grammys?
Met Gala.
Putting together IKEA furniture or doing your taxes?
Oh, IKEA furniture.
Planning a strict itinerary for a vacation or just wandering around and seeing what you find.
Wandering, 100%.
Nice.
Finding new shows to watch or watching the same show over and over again.
Same show over and over. Seinfeld all the way.
Seinfeld, nice. Unpacking from a trip the night you get back or unpacking 2 weeks later.
Ooh, I see. I unpacked that the night I get back.
And lastly, and most importantly, doing an interview with Audrey and Alan or doing an interview with Joe Rogan.
Oh, Audrey and Alan.
Oh,
God.
phew.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. No
Two,
way.
everyone.
No way.
We're
Joe
2 for 2.
Yes. Get out of here. Yeah. You guys are way better. Way more sane too. So I appreciate that.
We're always really nervous about asking that one because you never know, but we got to put it in there.
Oof,
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine who's going to answer that Joe Rogan is their preferred interviewee.
We should
I
be
guess we'll
smarter.
see. Yeah, we'll see some true colors come out there.
Exactly. Well, this has been such a blast. Thanks so much for chatting with us, Merick. And signing off, I'm Alan.
I'm Audrey.
I'm Merick.
Yay.
And join us next time when we meet another human
of
of Buildout.